Welcome to Midweek Boost. Later this week we'll be celebrating our Independence Day. So today I'm going to speak on the subject of God in America. Now to be clear, the title God in America and the historical data is from a message by Jeffrey Anselmi. He apparently did a lot of research, and I must give him credit for that. I will be echoing some of his words in the course of this message. The text I've chosen comes from 2 Chronicles 7:14, which states simply, "If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land." You know, we're living in a time of confusion and a time of misinformation. As a society, we are at a crossroads. If you've been following the news, you have to be concerned about what is happening around you today in our country. I don't want to spend a lot of time today bemoaning all the negative things that are happening, because quite honestly, it will not change a thing. But we're quickly sliding down a slippery path. What has caused us to slide down this path? Well, I think many people are confused about where and if God belongs in our nation. As time goes by, we're pushing God further and further out of our society. Has it always been that way? What did our founding fathers fight and die for? It's tempting for us to look back on history and say that it was easy for these people to do what they did because we see that they won the war. But remember, they took on the strongest nation in the world at the time, and victory certainly was not guaranteed. It's important to see what our founding fathers believed and fought for. These men had a vision for the nation that they shed their blood for. It was a vision that was so strong they were willing to make the ultimate sacrifice in the face of overwhelming odds to make it happen. Today I want to take just a few minutes for us to look at where the founding fathers believed that God belonged in our heritage, our government, and in our educational system. I'm only going to briefly touch on each area today, but there is plenty of information out there if you want to look at this more closely. The Founding Fathers wrote volumes and volumes on things they believed in, and it's sad to see supposed educators making accusations without looking at primary source documents, or if they do, they ignore them or misquote them to push their own narrative. First, there's much confusion over the beliefs of the Founding Fathers. Today it's popular for uninformed people to say that the founders were not Christians. This is not true. The first act of the United States Congress was to authorize the printing of 20,000 Bibles for distribution to the Indians. Further, when our first president under the new Constitution received the request of both houses of Congress concerning a national declaration for a public day of thanksgiving and prayer, George Washington issued a national Thanksgiving proclamation without any apparent concern that he might be mixing government and religion. The men who founded our country clearly wedded it to Christian principles. By today's standards, the Founding Fathers were the religious right. And this consensus is easily verified by the fact that prior to 1789, the year that 11 of the 13 states ratified the Constitution, many of the states still had constitutional requirements that a man must be a Christian in order to hold public office. Of course, that's not the case today, nor should it be. But this Christian consensus was understood by leaders long after the American Revolution as well. Abraham Lincoln in 1863 called for a national fast day, citing the fact that we've been the recipients of the choicest bounties of heaven, but we have forgotten God. There's so many incorrect things that we're being told today. For example, we're now told that our founding fathers were atheists and agnostics. But consider this statement by Patrick Henry. He said it cannot be emphasized too strongly or too often that this great nation was founded not by religionists, but by Christians, not on religions, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ. 52 of the 55 founding fathers who worked on the Constitution were members of Orthodox churches. In 1779, after the First Amendment was written, the Supreme Court stated the following: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Let's look at God and our government. Does God have a place in our government? If you listen to some people today, they'll tell you no. But let's briefly look at a couple of statements from our founders pertaining to God in government. James Madison, the chief architect of the Constitution, said this in reference to the Ten Commandments: "We have staked the whole future of American civilization, not upon the power of government, far from it. We have staked the future of all of our political institutions upon the capacity of each and all of us to govern ourselves according to the Ten Commandments of God." John Quincy Adams said, "The law given from Sinai was a civil and municipal as well as a moral and religious code. Law is essential to the existence of men in society, and most of which have been acted by every nation which ever professed any code of laws." The Founding Fathers based our system of government on the Bible. For example, the concept for 3 branches of government can be found in Isaiah 33:22. The logic for the separation of powers was based on Jeremiah 17:9. The basis of tax exemptions for churches was found in Ezra 7:24. And there are many other examples. What about God and our educational system? Does God belong in schools? It does not seem so today, but our educational institutions were founded with God at the center. Look at these statements of philosophy of our major colleges in the United States. Yale: "Seeing God as the giver of all wisdom, every scholar, besides private and secret prayer, shall be present morning and evening at public prayer." Princeton: "Cursed be all that learning that is contrary to the cross of Christ." Harvard: "Let every student be plainly instructed and earnestly pressed to consider well the main end of his life and studies is to know God in Jesus, which is eternal life, and therefore to lay Christ in the bottom as the only foundation of all sound knowledge and learning." You not get these statements like these from those colleges today. Not only have Christian teachings been thrown out, but the Creator as well. Each of the state constitutions mandated that Christian teachings would be included in a child's education. Of the first colleges formed in America, 123 of the first 126 were formed on Christian principles. By 1900, it was extremely rare to find a university president who was not an ordained clergyman. Where does God fit into America? The founding fathers who gave us this great nation made it clear. God belongs front and center in our society. Don't be fooled by so-called enlightened people today. The founders knew that when you take God out of something, that something will fail. As a believer, educate yourself and let people know about our godly heritage. Let us stand up to those who would strip our nation of its religious heritage and prohibit religion in any form. Yes, it's true that some do not like or understand the religion of others, but that is not sufficient to prohibit the practice of any religion in this country, so long as that practice does not violate the rights of others to practice their faith, and that it does not violate the laws of the United States. Our country must start down a new path of freedom and try to undo some of the damage caused over the course of time, which has been violating our religious rights. We must stand strong and united against the forces in our nation that would strip us of our freedoms and our heritage. Lawlessness, tearing down statues, and disbanding police departments is the beginning of a revolution. It is the attempt by enemies within our own country to destroy it and to forcibly take it over. This is not about political parties or whether you are liberal or conservative. It's about our rights and freedoms as people living under the laws of the United States of America. We must have legislators and judges who are honest and who uphold the Constitution. We must have local and state leaders who will stand up to lawlessness and allow the police to defend us from mob rule. We cannot allow our elected officials to take from us our rights guaranteed by the Founding Fathers under the Constitution, religious or otherwise. We, the people, must hold fast to our freedoms and insist that we truly are one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. I ask you to please pray for our nation, and may God bless you this 4th of July week. May God bless our nation, and may we all enjoy a safe and happy Independence Day. Thanks for watching. Join me next week for another Midweek Boost.